Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, author of Visualizing Happiness in Every Area of Your Life and host of this podcast, Incredible Life Creator. And today I have with me Diana Tyson. Hi, Diana.
Hi, how are you doing? I'm so
I
excited to be on your podcast.
and I am so excited to have you, and you're calling in from your lodge, and I really want to talk about that as we get into the podcast. So really excited about that. But just so people can know you, I'm going to read just a short part of your bio. So
Yeah.
Diana Tyson is an energy healing Reiki Seichem therapist and teacher who has created her own natural transformation therapy, which is a holistic therapy and is approved by the Healer Foundation, the British Complementary Medicine Association. Diana has been awarded 3 awards in 2023 Global Business Awards: Best Transformational Therapist, West Yorkshire; Corporate Livewire Prestige Award, Best Holistic Therapist, West Yorkshire, and the Best Holistic Trainer. So you have lots of awards, and just talking to you, I can tell you have a lot of experience and have worked with lots of people. So I would just love to hear your story because as we were talking about before we came on, usually people don't, grow up and as they're growing up saying, I think when I grow up, I'll be a Reiki master, unless they have a parent or someone who was a Reiki master. We don't just start there. So where did you start out and how did you get to be doing what you're doing?
Okay, so I'd always wanted to be a teacher. Always wanted to be a teacher. So being little, it was my dream to be a teacher. And when I was about 8, my brother was looking after me and my parents were out. I was upstairs in my parents' room and I noticed that a picture of my great grandma, who I'd never met, called Nellie, it moved about 5 to 10 centimeters. It actually moved. As I'm speaking to you, I call them spidey senses, but then my spiritual senses are all going all tingly, my goosebumps. And basically it really freaked me out. I'm only 8. I saw this picture move. I runs downstairs. I go to my brother. I go, I've just seen that picture frame move. And he's going, don't be silly. You haven't. You can't see that. That won't move. It's just you being silly. And I says, honestly, I've seen it and it really freaked me out. And in my head, I said, I don't want to see. Okay. Now, I come from a long line of women that are clairaudient, clairvoyant. So I've got 5 generations of women that are very much in touch with spirit. My mum is clairvoyant. So at 8, I shut it down. I was too scared. It absolutely freaked me out. I was not ready for it at all. And the one good thing about spirit is if you say, I don't want, they will leave you alone. So, going through my life, I've always been quite spiritual, looking at complementary therapies. And basically, me and my husband got married, which was one of the most happiest days of my life. I found my soulmate. He's a quarter Italian, he's 6'2", got the most gorgeous blue eyes. And that's one of my really happy, positive anchors. And I decided I wanted to have children. I was in a highly stressful job. I was working 12 hours a day. Before mobile phones existed, I had a mobile phone, I had a bleeper, I had a pager, we had tannoys going out in the print. And I got pregnant and I was like, oh, this is exciting. I was so giddy. And we went for the scan, at 3 months. And the lady just went, oh, I'm really sorry to tell you, but your baby doesn't have a heartbeat. I was absolutely devastated. I was still feeling pregnant, my hormones were still rife. So the lady said, it is quite common, so don't worry about it. Just give yourself a bit of time and then try again. So me and my husband, that's what we did. Gave ourselves a break, then tried again. I got pregnant straight away. Obviously excited, but a little bit worried, not quite sure how things were going to go. And again, we went to the 3 month scan. I was still feeling very pregnant. My hormones were rife, and only to be told again that the baby had no heartbeat and that it had probably died at 10 weeks. I was absolutely devastated. Nobody could console me. I had to have both miscarriages taken away by a procedure. They put me in a room, which unfortunately all I could hear was babies being born. So that's really heartbreaking. Um, and I just said to them, I can't go through this again. I need to be taken to the early pregnancy unit for some tests. Fortunately, they started doing tests, but it was a massive, massive devastation to me because I was like, what's going on with my body? It's not doing what it's supposed to do. I felt I'd let my husband down, which I know is a weird thing for people to understand, but when your body does these things, your mind goes into a different negative mindset. So at the time, my mum paid for me to have Reiki and reflexology. We also then got the results back from the early pregnancy unit. And because I didn't have the human chronic gene, no matter what would have happened, my placenta would never kick in. So when I did get pregnant, I had to have injections up until 4 months to be able to maintain a baby. So I went and had Reiki and reflexology, and wow, how different I felt from being stressed out, burnt out, to being balanced. All I can say is that that was life changing for me. Um, and I felt so much better. And because Reiki was part of it, I then went on to have two beautiful children who are my absolute pride and joy, and both my husband's pride and joy. They are both neurodiverse, as I'm neurodiverse, and I've become an author within a book with Mandy Nicholson called Beyond the Ordinary, which is 30 women who have got together to talk about the challenges that they've faced being neurodiverse or having children that are neurodiverse. But it's all about creativity and it's all about positivity. So I then decided that I'd gained so many benefits from making reflexology. I wanted to train in it, and that's what I did. And the minute I got trained in Reiki, it was like this massive light bulb moment of actually, I'm very spiritually connected. And I was willing then to open up the channel to spirit because I knew I was more in control. And that's when I realized I'm clairaudient and clairsentient, which means I hear and I sense spirit. So, one of the reasons that I'm on the show is that I've created a therapy called Natural Transformation. But basically, what happened then is that I went to Canada with the kids and my husband. And one of my close friends, my mentor, had passed. And I kept getting woken up at 3 in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, with her talking to me, going, Diana, I've got something exciting. There's something I need to talk to you about. And I'm like, at 3 in the morning? Why does it have to be 3 in the morning? Do you know what I mean? But I had to get up because they wouldn't leave me alone. So literally, I spent 3 hours for 3 days, 3 in the morning, writing this information down, along with my experience of energy therapies and acupressure points, because I'm also an EFT tapper. So I then created this therapy that releases a lot of negative energy and emotions, but the person's in control who comes to you. And so I intuitively guide them to new chakras, how to release those things that have been holding them back, and how to move positively forward to where they want to be. So it's very much about, I suppose, because I sense energy, I already know as soon as they walk in where there's some stagnant energy, there's something needs clearing in the throat or the heart, because I sense it intuitively. So I know exactly where I need to work to help them to get the most. And I just feel that it's time to get this therapy out there. And the reason I've not been talking about it recently is that we have had 5 close family members die within 6 years of each other. So grief became a massive one. And the last person who died was my stepdad, who's really my dad, and Justin's mum. And Justin, my dad was through throat cancer and esophagus cancer. Funnily enough, I became cancer care trained about 6 years ago. Well, it isn't because Spirit wanted that to happen. Does that make sense? So I provide cancer care support for people who are going through the journey as well as the carers. So I'm very lucky that I've got such a special husband who's extremely supportive. So
So let's talk about that husband. So there are so many, people who want to find their soulmate. And, when they hear of someone finding their soulmate, and it was the best day of their lives when you hear of so many divorces and people having a hard time. And my goodness, I mean,
yeah.
how did you meet each other and how did you know he was your soulmate?
Well, there's another interesting thing because basically I had a dream as a teenager that a very handsome, dark-haired, kind of Italian-looking man had come behind me in my mum and dad's bathroom. And in those days, there were mirrored tiles, which were horrendous as a teenager, but I couldn't see his face. He kissed me on the back of the neck, that very kind of like snuggling in, where the whole of your body goes into these tingles of like, oh, ooh, felt that kind of chemistry. And I never saw his face. However, we started seeing each other. We started as friends, and because he is younger than me, so I will say that. And I can remember one day we were at my mum and dad's, and I was in the bathroom, and he came up behind me, and I got the exact intense feeling of that dream.
Wow.
Because in that dream, it said in my head, that is the person for you. And I got the same intense tingling, and I just knew it was him. And I was like, God, I dreamed of you. And then I got that feeling again. But also, I was told by a very, very good medium that lived in this area that my nana had chosen him for me.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And then how long have you been married now?
Next year we'll be married 30 years and we've known each other 35.
So I ask this to anyone who stayed in marriage that long. What's the secret to longevity in a loving relationship?
Communication. Even when they're getting on your nerves and you're getting frustrated, how can they understand that you are getting annoyed or frustrated or things are getting on your nerves if you don't communicate it without the nagging, without just having a go of like, did you realize when you did this is how it made me feel? Communicating, proper talking, having date nights, you know? Saying to the kids, we're going out and we're having time together. We go and wild swim together. We make that time for each other because we are still a couple and we still need to have that time together. He does separate things, I do separate things. But when we spend time together, it is quality time because you need to keep that spark going. You need to reignite that flame that was always there to begin with. And you can lose it by just not communicating, by getting fed up of the drudgery of everyday life. If you don't talk, they're not telepathic. They don't know what your needs and wants are. And you are worthy of asking for things, you know?
Mhm.
And that's the beauty of it. You really do have to communicate.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I heard someone say once, men just want to please their wives, but they don't know what to do. So you need to tell them, I want you to do this. And they do it. You're happy. They're happy because they're pleasing you. But we
Yeah.
have to
And if
say what we want.
Yeah, exactly. Because they don't. We are different. Men are from Mars and we are from Venus. So if you want something doing on in the house, give them a list because they don't actually know what needs doing in the house. So give them a list. You know, these are the things that really need doing. You give them a list, they can check it off. But if you don't communicate what needs doing, you just get all very niggles become bigger niggles, fight, you then become a fight. And it's not worth it. It really isn't. Because at the end of the day, if you truly love someone, you work at it.
Mhm.
You work together as a team.
Yes.
And that's my advice.
Thank you.
Date night, wild swimming, and being a team with the kids,
Mhm.
singing from the same home sheet so that one kid won't come in and say, Dad said this and you said that. No, let's get it straight. These are our boundaries. This is what we expect from each other. And this is what we will accept from the kids. And this is what we won't.
Mhm. That is great.
Unity. You have to be unified, especially with the kids. And
For sure.
especially with two neurodiverse kids as well, that they come with their own challenges. They have so many challenges they have to face, and they can have meltdowns. They can feel overstimulated. They can feel frustrated. And it's about handling that because they are unique individuals and they need to be supported and guided. They don't need to be negatively talked to, they need encouragement, real encouragement. Um, and that takes a wealth of kind of like, let's calm it all down, you know. When your kid's having a meltdown and they're lashing out and they're hitting and they can't actually convey what's frustrating them, the worst thing you can do is shout at them.
Mhm.
You know, it's like, how can we calm this down? How can you talk to them encouragingly? What's actually triggered this? What's the actual core feeling that they're feeling? So it's more about drawing it out and being kind and just thinking, do you know what? They're getting frustrated because they can't talk about what they really need to talk about.
Mm. That is really a deep understanding what you just described.
And giving them a safe space
Mm.
and saying, do you know what? If you don't want to be around us because things are overstimulating you, absolutely go to your room. Go do what you need to do. Listen to your music. Have some alone time because that's when they decompress, you know? Or a simple, lovely hug.
Yeah. Yes, for
A
sure.
healing hug.
So, I'd like to ask you, you talked about, when you had lost that second miscarriage and your mom took you to see someone that did Reiki and reflexology. Not
Yeah,
everybody knows what either of those are. So, why don't you
okay.
describe what they are so people know?
Absolutely fine. Reiki is called universal life force energy, and it's a natural energy that anybody can be attuned to. You don't have to have any prior knowledge. And basically, what the Reiki person does is they reconnect your chakras and your body to Reiki so that it will naturally balance your mind, body, and your soul. So it's an energy therapy where people hover their hands above your body and you can feel that powerful energy just moving and shifting. So it can release negative energy, it can release stagnant energy, it can release stuck emotions. So obviously, with me having two miscarriages, I had a lot of grief in my heart. I was feeling really sad. I'd not very probably vocalized how I was really feeling because sometimes you feel like you can't vocalize how you're feeling because everybody else is hurting. My husband was hurting. Obviously, grandparents were sad that weren't going to be grandparents. But yeah, actually, your emotions and your feelings are worthy of being acknowledged. So, what Reiki does is help you to balance, recharge, realign your chakras so that you are in more harmony
Mhm.
and you're in a better place because your body's kind of talking to each other, if that makes sense. So if your hormones are out of balance, it'll help that. If you're overthinking and your anxiety and you've got stress, which obviously I was, it'll help to release that and balance that. So it's a wonderful therapy for just relaxing you, taking anxiety out, reducing stress, helps with sleep, balancing hormones, brilliant for anybody trying to get pregnant, anybody having irregular periods, postmenopause, premenopause, menopausal ladies. Just, it's for everybody and everything. And reflexology is you've got a complete map of your body through reflex points, which are acupressure points on your foot. So through pressing certain points, look, I'm doing my reflexology then. My thumbers were already doing it. Doing reflexology points on your feet allows your body to balance, harmony, but it can also boost things. So it can boost your immune system, it can boost your fertility, it can reduce headaches, fatigue, stress, anxiety, IBS. I'm trying to think of all the things. It can help you sleep better. It can help you go from overwhelmed to feeling a lot more in control. So they're just a beautiful combination of holistic therapies. So if anybody was wanting to try anything out, I'd absolutely recommend those two holistic therapies. Because they're just, it's natural and it's transformative. So that's why my business name is called Natural Transformation, because you use natural things to transform the challenges that you're facing to arrive at solutions.
And then when I was reading your bio, it said you do Reiki and then Seichem Reiki.
Oh, yeah.
Which, I've learned Reiki, but I had never heard of Seichem. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Seichem Reiki.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What does this additional type of Reiki, what does that add to your practice that you don't have with regular Reiki?
Okay. So Reiki is universal life force energy, and Seichem is air, water, air, and fire. Did I say that right? Air, water, earth, and fire. And it's the Egyptian part of Reiki. They're from the same family, but just think of it as a brother or sister. And basically, some of the symbols that said that were lost have been brought into Seichem. And Seichem is a wonderful way of using the energy of air, water, fire, and earth to really draw some of the negative energy from a past situation or a present. It really goes in deep, and it kind of, people call it psychic surgery, people call it that you can go in and really go into some deep rooted energy that might be from past situations. It can be even from past lives, things like that. But it's a real clearer, it's almost like if you had water, air, fire, and earth, right? There's nowhere that negative energy can hide, because you've got all those elements. It also brings on the angelic realm, also brings in some Egyptian. So it's all about that healing intensifying. And if you've got Reiki and Seichem combination, I'm also an Egyptian Katouche master as well. So you've got those 3 healing modalities that I use. I can use all of that in one session. So it's almost like I believe in the power of 3. So you've got 3 healing modalities with me. And that's what makes me different. Because somebody asked me the other day, Diana, what makes you different from other therapists? And I thought, actually, it's a really good question. Because I've got 3 energy modalities that I can use to help you kind of release what you need to release, create some space, and put that positive inner healing into that place. I also use that within my hypnotherapy as well. So I use my intuitive side. So I do energy healing within my hypnotherapy as well.
Interesting. And then the other thing you mentioned, which I love because I use it often on myself, this is something you can do on yourself, But, you talked about, tapping, also known as EFT or emotional freedom technique.
Oh,
How
yeah.
did you describe that so people can understand and, you know
Okay. Well, basically, we have energy meridians within our mind, in our body. And the person who created tapping was actually an engineer. So he didn't have any knowledge of energy therapy, which I love. So he's coming from a scientific engineer point of view. And so basically, he realized that doing a sequence of tapping, discussing what you wanted to release, and tapping on certain energy meridians while saying what you needed to release, I'm doing tapping as we speak, would release that emotion and the memory of the emotion that was deep rooted within you. So you could have a fear of dogs, but it had started because you were shocked as a 7-year-old by a very barking dog. But then what might happen is you might have been walking to school one day, then you hear a dog barking, and you then go back to the original trigger of being scared. You could then be at school and you're actually having a lesson, and you actually have somebody you can hear in a field that the dog's barking. So again, at school, it triggers you. And lots of things tag on to those triggers. So eventually it becomes a bigger thing. But if you tap on the original emotion, you unravel and unwind the memories and the triggers. So it will release that original memory and scared and fear. And when you're tapping on that, you're unraveling that memory so that your body lets go of that. And the minute they let go of that, you are moving forward freely. So you tap and talk about it, release it, and use that person's words because it's the feelings that they feel. So they've got to really feel it as they're tapping.
Mhm.
And I can remember with one session, a lady had had a fear and phobia for 30 years of dogs. She would go past the same gate as a child, but she'd have to walk 15 minutes out of the estate to avoid it. The dog was no longer there. So I went and did a session with her. I said, look, I says, by the end of this, you won't have a fear of dogs. She was sweating at the whole thought. I even just took a little picture of a dog. She was sweating with fear. So we tapped on it, did it, tapped it again, tap, tap, tap. And I actually have a dog. So I said, how do you feel about meeting my dog now? And we tapped it all out and she went, I'm really excited. I want to see your dog. And this is a woman who was sweating with fear. So I literally introduced her to the dog. She was stroking the dog. She threw a ball for the dog. She gave the dog a treat and she was crying with happiness because she'd got overcome her original fear of dogs.
Yeah.
And that's how amazing EFT tapping can be.
It really is. I know there's been time, like I said, I use it often. If I have a time where I'm feeling anxious about whatever, I mean, just 3 or 4 rounds of tapping, and all of a sudden the anxiety goes away and I can think clearly. And
Absolutely.
it's hard to even describe why it works the way it works, or, I've had pain in a certain part of my body and I'm just tapping it because a lot of our pain is connected to our emotions. So if we can talk about those and tap, the pain, sometimes goes away, sometimes at least lessens, but it gets better.
Yeah, yeah. And I can remember one time when my son came home, he was really, really upset. So I said to him, right, okay, let's acknowledge his feelings. So I literally did three rounds of tapping with him. And he went from, I consider a meltdown hysterical, to literally calm. And I only did 3 rounds of tapping with him. It was 10 minutes long max. And he just went, I feel fine now, Mum.
Mhm.
And I was like, yes, you
It,
know,
it's so simple, but it's almost like a miracle. Just the
it
way,
is.
it's just using the way our bodies work with the,
Yeah.
we're electric. We're
Yeah,
there's
we're all
there's
circuits. So
things,
if we tap on
yeah.
these certain meridians, it makes sense. I mean, even if you just tap the gamut point,
Mhm.
if you're stressed, if you tap that gamut point, all of a sudden you feel so much better.
Mhm.
And it's like you say, it's simple and effective, and it just really works. You know, you can't sing its praises enough, can you really?
Really? No.
Happy tapping. That's basically happy tappers. That's what we are.
Uh-huh. For sure. So now you are in UK and you
Yeah,
actually have a healing retreat center there. Do you want to talk
I
about
do.
that?
I do. I have a purpose-built lodge. I'd always wanted a lodge in my back garden, so it was separate from my house. So it was a totally in my garden, away from everything else, so that I could do my therapies and my training, because I train people in Reiki and Seichem and crystals and Egyptian Katush and my own therapy. So I needed something purpose built. It's a lovely place, and I will tour you around it. And I'll have to apologise because I haven't actually tidied up. So I will only show you certain places. I'm not that cracking at the video. So
Mhm.
as I turn it round, I will show you. This is my lovely healing lodge. So we come in, there's lots of beautiful pictures. All artwork is all to do with energy and crystals. As you can see, I've got crystals everywhere because I love crystals. I also love anything Native American Indian because I actually have a Native American Indian guide. And I love dream catchers. Here's a chakra um, affirmation. Anything in my lodge is just all chakras, everything to do with Reiki. So we've got a Reiki there, we've got a dream catcher, lots and lots of crystals everywhere, and some lovely awards that I've received, and lots of artwork. So I'm then going to spin you round to me again. So I'm really sorry, I'm not very good with the video. I think it's part of me being dyslexic and neurodiverse. I just can't get videos. And everybody laughs. Oh my God, Mum's on the video again. You might get a pair of feet.
Oh
Oh,
my
so
goodness.
I'm embracing my neurodiversity, which basically means that I know I'm not great on a video, but hey ho, I'm good at all the other energy therapy works and connecting with spirit.
Mhm.
So we've all got to know our limitations sometimes. So
Mm. Yeah.
yeah,
So to
but
work
this
with
one
you, how do people like connect with you and do they need to come to where you're at to do the work?
I can do online. So I can do EFT online, hypnotherapy online. I can do distant Reiki or Seichem. So I can send it to you. You sit in a certain place, and at a certain time, I'll be sending that to you. It's very relaxing. I can do natural transformation therapy online as well. Or alternative, if you're in England and you're in West Yorkshire, Leeds, you can come to my beautiful Tranquil Healing Lodge in Leeds. I do have a website, so you can contact me through the website. And it's just so versatile. I love the work that we do, that we can be so versatile now, and especially through lockdown. I provided a lot of therapies online for key workers for free because a lot of them were not sleeping.
Mhm.
And I just sort of reached out because I couldn't do my physical therapies. So then I said, I'll either do you distant Reiki or I can do you an online session. And it felt good to be useful for key workers because they were having so much pressure, seeing so many things, seeing things that we probably never want to see. So I just felt that that was giving back a little bit in a situation that they needed that. And I got a lot of good feedback from those key workers saying, Diana, you came just at the time when I thought I couldn't get to sleep anymore, or I was so sort of almost suffering from PTSD. My anxiety, my stress, my nerves were overwhelming. And just to know that you'd done that for us meant the world to them. And I said, well, you're doing what we need. So why can't I give back to you? You know? And sometimes it's just nice to be able to do that. And I didn't, lots of people said to me, oh, a lot of people wouldn't have done that. And I said, well, why wouldn't you? Because that's not in my nature. My nature is to nourish, to nurture, to help, to support, to guide. It wouldn't even come in my remit. It's like, yeah, of course you offer. It's what you do. You're an energy worker. And when you do energy as well, like if you do Reiki, Seichem, Egyptian Katouche, when you're providing that healing, you get healing as well.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's a win-win. We're in a situation where people say, oh, do you get drained by saying distant? I went, no, because I'm getting that Reiki at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, it's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Now I have a personal question for you. What gives
Ooh.
you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life at this point?
The most happiness and fulfillment in my life at this point is my husband, my two beautiful neurodiverse children, well, they're adults. My son is a professional dancer, and my daughter is an illustrator. They give me the most joy. My work also gives me joy. But seeing them thrive with the challenges that they've faced and knowing that they have that confidence in themselves is magic. That's just magic. For my kids to be happy is the most important part of my life for me. And knowing that I've got a lot of support, my friends, my family. I choose my friends wisely, which I'm sure you can understand. But the friends that I have, I know that they'd go above and beyond as I would for them.
That is the best kind of friends to have.
Yeah. Oh, and I also have a husky dog. He brings me lots of joy
Mhm.
because he's just like a wolf. And he's the calmest, kindest, most beautiful natured dog ever. He's beautiful, he really is, but I've trained him a lot. So yeah, that's what brings me the most joy, and being able to do the work I can and being able to provide therapies to help people when I know that they're struggling. Because I believe a good therapist is someone who's been potentially in that situation that you have. Um, having lost a lot of people, grief was massive for me. So I feel that I hold that space and I actively listen for people who are grieving. For anybody who's gone through cancer, I'm cancer care trained, but I've also gone through breast cancer myself. So I do understand those feelings that happen. Um, I'm very lucky that my diagnosis was quick. However, I also had spirit saying, you're going to be okay. And my specialist was going, you're really positive about this, Diana. I've never ever known anybody take the diagnosis of that you've got cancer so easily. I went, I know I'm going to be okay. And she went, what do you do for a living? And I went, oh, I'm a Reiki master. She went to all the nurses in the room, listen to this lady. Really unusual for actually a specialist surgeon to say, which I was so pleased. She went, this lady is really wise. Listen to what this lady says because she's deals with Reiki energy. So I said, I've already been told I'm going to be okay. And she went, I can't answer you that question. I said, no, you don't need to. And I can remember I'd come round after the surgery and I went to see her afterwards. And she went, there's a chance, Mrs. Tyson, you're going to need radiotherapy. I went, I won't. And she went, no, you can't know that yet. I said, it's okay, I won't need it. And she went, no, I've got to wait for the oncology thingy to come back. I can't tell you that. Next day, she rings me. She was practically laughing. Mrs. Tyson, I went, yes, you do know. I says, I know what you're going to tell me. She was laughing. She went, you don't need radiotherapy. I says, well, I told you that. But that's because I got told by Spirit. So I'm lucky. I'm very blessed and I'm lucky. But I also used hypnotherapy on myself. I did lots of recordings of certain hypnotherapy for cancer care. I tapped on myself. I did self-care. And the one piece of advice I'd give to anybody who's listening, take time out for yourself. Self-care is not selfish, it's self-preservation. And you cannot pour from an empty cup. So unless you want to have burnout or you want to get poorly or you feel that you're so drained in your energy, start giving yourself that time out, walking in nature, just doing the things that actually build up your flow, that build back your positive energy. You know, we all know there's people who drain us around us. That happens. But you need to take that time for you. Because if you don't, it'll be harder for you to get that energy back. That's my piece of advice. And I, at this age, I'm 56 now, have started to learn that I have to look after me. To look after others, I have to look after my energy. And that makes a difference when you start putting a little bit in your diary of some time out for you and your self-care and prioritizing, you actually start realizing your worth as well. And that is really important, particularly for women. And I don't mean to disrespect anybody else, but women, we're the mums, we're the nurturers, we're the caregivers. We are juggling so many plates that some plates will fall. And then it's not a good place to be because you're trying to bring yourself up from a really low place. So rather than that, let's have some preemptive, so that it won't happen, and make sure we look after ourselves because we are worth it. We are worthy of being looked after by ourselves, and it's not selfish at all. I think we get preconceived ideas from that we have to not do these things for ourselves. Yes, we do. It's important, really, really important.
Great. Thank you. And thank you so much for being on the podcast and sharing all your wisdom and education with us today.
Oh, I've loved every minute, and thank you for having me. It's a joy being on here, and your energy is just so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. And I actually have one last question for you before we complete, and you might have already answered it, but I'm going to ask you
Oh.
anyways, and maybe you'll give us another nugget. Um, what is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
Be true to your authentic self, and don't let the fear of being judged hold you back. Your own fear can be the thing that holds you back. And you may think people are judging you when actually they're not. What you need to do is believe in you and go do all the things you want to do, all those things that fill you with joy, all those adventures, all the things that you want to do for you. Go and do it. There's nobody stopping you. I mean, I started carnival dancing and soca dancing the year before I got breast cancer. And I do the Leeds West Indian Carnival, which is 5 hours of dancing every year. And we have won the carnival 2 years on a row. But I'm 56 and I'm doing that. Why shouldn't I be? Why shouldn't I be in these beautiful costumes and dancing away and enjoying dancing and enjoying life and embracing it? Don't let yourself hold yourself back, because you've got that beautiful spark inside you. Reignite that light and let that flame for everybody to see. And if your brightness is too bright for others, just tell them to put some sunglasses on, because it's not your fault if you're too bright for them. That's their problem, not yours. So just shine and just be you. And the minute you start doing that, you'll be amazed how different you feel, what opportunities come in, and a lot of positive affirmations. I do gratitude every night, write down what I'm grateful for. I have a little positive jar for little positives and little Kodak moments that have happened. So when I'm feeling a bit low, I'll go into my little positive jar and go, oh, there's a Kodak moment, and it lifts me up. It isn't all rose tinted. It isn't an easy journey. But acknowledging what you need, what you want, and what you desire, and being able to communicate that in a good and easy way to others. It's healthy boundaries, both personally and professionally. And you have to actually have those uncomfortable discussions because your voice is worthy of being heard.
Well, thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. I've loved every minute of it. Thank you.
Yeah. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.